Hey guys, Jared Lintner here with Tackle Warehouse. We're going to dive into one of my favorite ways to catch a bass. That's on topwater with a buzzbait. Go. He just slurped it. So let's get out here and I'm going to show you how I fish each and every one of these. I have been amazed and really intrigued by buzzbait fishing ever since the first time I went actually bass fishing at Lopez Lake in California many years ago. Before I even fished my first club tournament, this guy took me out. We had a jig and he had this thing called a buzzbait. I had no idea what it was, and I'd caught a few fish prior to that on a spinnerbait, right? So I'm thinking this thing is like a spinnerbait action. I throw it out there, let it sink, and I'm like, man, this thing wants to come to the surface. Well, like my third time doing that, ooh, I catch a 5-pounder on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a topwater bait. So this is back when I was 14 years old, I think, first learning about it. The buzzbait was actually kind of invented by a guy years ago in the 60s. It hit the market in 1976. So it's been around now for a while, and there's been lots of modifications, lots of different designs that we're gonna go through, and different ways to fish it. So let's start at the beginning of the year, January, February, pre-spawn. I'm throwing darker colors, bigger profile baits, meaning big double buzz, big trailers. Like I mentioned, you know, your blacks and purples, things of that nature. Darker skies, nasty conditions, go with darker colored baits, skirts, trailers, blades. Brighter the conditions, you want to throw more your natural shad colors, your whites, your shads, as well as the trailer and the blade. You know, right here you see I got a white on white. If we're in the summertime and I'm fishing this color of water, white on white, 100% is what I'm going to do because the water's kind of stained. Now if the water here was gin clear, I'm going to throw the silver blade on there with more of a natural trailer and a natural skirt. Once you get into the spawn, the water temps keeps warming up. You can still stick with those same profiles, but maybe only a single blade. Once you get into that spawn, post-spawn, that's when I start wanting clackers or the head knockers, you know, making real erratic sounds, enticing those strikes. More natural style colors like bluegills, shads of that nature. Once we get past the post-spawn into summer, that's again, we get into the shads. I want a buzzbait that I can wind really fast because the water temperature is rising. Higher the water temp, the faster I want to wind that bait and draw those strikes. You know, usually fishing around grass, things of that nature. Then we get into the fall, and it's kind of a tricky time of year. Some days, you know, depending on the cloud cover or rain or the temperature of the day itself, sometimes I do want a big bulky bait. Other times I just want a loud aggressive bait. But 9 times out of 10, once you get into that fall, you know, leaves are changing, I'm going black and purples, or a real vibrant color like straight chartreuse. For whatever reason, fall time, that's what I generally go to. Earlier I told the story of the first buzzbait fish I caught years and years ago. That was actually on a lunker lure. You know, everybody knows that name, I'm sure. It's just your typical single-bladed buzzbait. This here still is a mainstay in my boxes. A single buzz to this day will get bites. That's fun. Told you I was gonna get a bite there. In my opinion, the best size, the best weight is 3/8, just because it's the castability, ability to keep it on the surface. They usually come with a single blade just like that, but having that blade like that gives you the ability to twitch the rod, make that bait jump. Given the conditions we have here today, water temps like 60, I would wind this at a real medium pace and just keep it coming, right? Let's say we fish down the bank, you know, we got a little bit of deeper water, or there's some deeper structure we wanted. Here I have a single buzz rigged with just a toad style trailer, again with the trailer hook. similar deal right there. Make a long cast or a short roll cast, depending on how close you are to that structure, and just a normal steady wind. I would say, I mean, 80% of the time, that's how you're gonna get your bites. I have seen it like during a shad spawn, or you know, certain situations where they're chasing bait and you know the fish are hot, making a cast out there and really bringing it, and just really bringing that thing. That's where, you know, you have a higher gear ratio, that 7-to-3, something like that, works really well. But again, you know, when you come around a piece of structure, I'm going over a laydown right now, I'm gonna jump that, you know, twitch my rod tip so that that buzzbait has a chance to pause. And if there was one near or around it, it kind of stays in his strike zone just for a hair more, and really, you know, makes him have to react to it. So a lot of times, just by doing that right there, you're gonna get some vicious bites. Now, for the trailers, okay? I recently have become a real big fan of a Z-craw. In the past, I've used lizards, and I still do. I'll still use a white lizards occasionally. 99% of the time, I'm going with the Z-craw. It just seems to pair really nicely with it, gives a little bit of tail kick action. First of all, it's really important that you keep that as straight as you can. So you line it up, thread it on there just straight like that. That just adds a little bit of come get me. They seem to get the bait better. You add a trailer. I'll be honest with you, sometimes I've seen it, you know, where I've had guys in the back of my boat, whether it be my son or a buddy, that has caught more fish without a trailer. So if you feel like it's the right time and you should be getting bites on it, experiment with both. Now, another deal that's came out here recently, right? Buzzbaits without skirts on them. So this here is a scent. Actually, the skirt comes in the package, but it's rigged without the skirt on it. And there's some other brands that's all there is. And you're like, well, what am I gonna do with that? That's when you add like a toad type trailer, okay? So what you wanna do, you can see that little catcher right there, you wanna thread it all the way up to the head of that bait. So you take a toad, go in like this, and here's the reason why this bait right here is really effective. So if I'm going down this bank right here behind me and there's some overhangs, right? This bait right there, you can't really skip this bait. Whereas that, you can skip it under docks, under laydowns, and it gives you that real nice constant purr. Again, you can speed it up, you know, twitch your rod tip, make that bait jump. One real quick tip I want to show you. So when you're using a toad style bait, like this here is just a regular horny toad, get yourself a 22 shell, okay? And what you do is you just simply carve this out, but that puts a little bit of separation in there, and it creates that little bit more action on those tails. You can see the one with and one without. And I'm telling you, I've seen that make a difference. Leave some extra bubble trails. All right, guys, one quick tip I want to share with you guys. Buzzbaits, trailer hooks. Almost 100% all the time, no matter what, throw a trailer hook, right? I would say the only time I wouldn't throw a trailer hook would be if I'm fishing extremely thick bushes, making long casts over through bushes. Besides that, if I'm in grass, lily pads, around laydowns, stumps, docks, rocks, doesn't matter. I'm always throwing a trailer hook, because the way they are now, right, that's falling in line. So that's virtually gonna be weedless just like that. So, you know, the odds of that snagging is slim to none. Yeah, you're gonna have a couple little hiccups here and there, but the times when a fish comes up behind it and barely misses that bait is not worth, you know, the couple times you get snagged. So I'll even share with you this. Open water situations, clear water, say I'm just fishing rocks down bluff ends. I'll put a treble hook, like a 2/0 trail car treble hook on there as a trailer. So, but let's talk about, you know, the grass, getting back to fishing around, you know, single laydowns or stumps, things of that nature. a single trailer hook like that is the go-to. I believe this is Eagle Claw makes one. It's a really, really good one. 1, 2, and 3/0 size is pretty much all you need. This here is 2/0 for the medium-sized buzzbait. I go to a 3/0 with a big double buzz like that. But let me show you how I add that. You know, back in the day, we had the little sleeves, the little plastic sleeves. You cut them with scissors and it was kind of a pain. Now Rapid Fishing Solutions makes this little tool right here. It comes with these little discs. There's black and clear. So if you're throwing a black bait, obviously I like to match it, and clear for the shad colors. You load it in there, and then you take your bait and you simply stab that on there and you're good to go. So it doesn't come off, you're not fighting it, and holds it on there extremely well. You're gonna help increase the odds of landing those big buzzbait fish just by adding a trailer hook. Oh! Not a 2-minute penalty. Now I want to dive into what really got my attention full core, the Clacker style buzzbaits. Having the ability to make that much commotion, that much sound, and some of the strikes that you create is so exciting to me. Like I'll drive 8-10 hours just to throw a buzzbait. One of the original ones was this 4-blade plastic deal. Is originally a rod strainer. I don't even know if they make them back in the day, but you can hear that in the wind right there. So that was the original Clacker, and they still make these with the little blade that hits the blade itself. Oh, there we go. Now we got it. Anyway, the ability to do that and the strikes it creates is unprecedented. As time goes on, right, we came to these blades that are hitting the head. This here's a EcoPro tungsten war cry, so you can bend that wire down. Now the blade, when it comes around, it hits that head, and that's a tungsten head, so it makes a real distinct sound. Other baits like this Tackle HD, or they make a prototype lures, makes one. It comes around and it's a lead head, same principle. Comes around and hits the head. You can see right there where this one's been thrown a lot. There's several different models. These are the 4 that I carry. The Jackal Firecracker. So you can see there's a prop right here. It comes around, hits the blades, and makes that real distinct sound. So all these different clackers are making a different sound. So if I just had this one and I went to this body of water, they might not like that sound. They may want the traditional, you know, rod strainer, that one. So it's on you to figure out which one they want. Again, this is when I feel like the fish are aggressive, meaning on beds or post spawn, garden fry, or especially like we talked about in the fall. And you can hear, a lot of times I get so mesmerized by it that I forget to enhance it. So I'm coming around a bush right now. When I come there, I'm just gonna kind of make that pop and jump. And what that does is all of a sudden, you know, that constant sound of the blade hitting the head, it's irregular, right? And no matter what you're doing in bass fishing, if you make the bait or whatever jump or make it act abnormal, a lot of times that's going to generate more strikes as if you just kept winding it. Depending on what you're fishing, right? If I'm on a big grass flat, the longer the cast, the better. If I'm, you know, from here to the bank, which is only 25, 30 feet, I don't have to make a real long cast. But if I'm just wanting to cover water, you can. And what you want to do is, you can see how I'm kind of holding that rod tip at like a 45, not close to the water like this. If you do this, that blade is going to want to dig down and you're not going to keep it up on the surface. If you have it too high, the blade's going to come out of the water and it's not going to work right. So you want it just kind of like this. And also what that does is when a fish bites you, your instinct to set the hook is kind of taken away because you kind of got to gather yourself and then set the hook. So you don't want to, a fish comes up and bites it right now, I'm not just jerking as hard as I can. You want a rod that's soft enough where it's going to load a little bit, and then you got them. As far as fighting the fish in, I mean, I recommend braid on all buzzbaits, finesse or non-finesse, and you know, you're just pretty much winding them in. You know, you're trying to keep them from jumping, put your rod tip in the water if they're hot and they want to jump a lot. A lot of the buzzbait tackle and gear that we are fishing with is pretty heavy duty. So, you know, the chance of you breaking your line or straightening out a hook, I mean, a lot of these hooks are meant for braid and big reel situation, stuff like that. Right now we're kind of getting into that spawn, post spawn. That's when I'm gonna go towards a, you know, more of a clacking style, because I want to draw those fish off their beds, create that commotion, and get those fish to react to it. When we start getting into late summer, all the way up into, I'd say, first part of winter, that's when, to me, the clacking style is at its best. You know, when you have a lake that has vegetation and that vegetation starts to die out, that's when a black buzzbait like that with a clacker is gonna get you those bites. You can see here I have a lizard on there. Occasionally I'll put on an 8-inch black lizard if I'm fishing real dark water. If I'm at a clear lake and I know there's big ones in there and I know they eat big baits, I'm gonna throw the biggest bait I can. On the War Cry, you can see I have a big Z-Craw trailer on there. The bigger the trailer you put on a buzzbait, it adds profile to the bait, right? If I were to put on the baby Z-Craw on here, it's gonna make that bait a little smaller, and actually having a bait like that, you can throw that sucker right there into the wind. Bigger the bait, bigger profile, bigger the fish. That's what's in my mind. The color is also dictated by time of year and pretty much water temperature, okay? If we're in the summertime and I'm fishing this color of water, white on white, 100% is what I'm gonna do, because the water's kind of stained. Now, if the water here was gin clear, I'm gonna throw the silver blade on there with more of a natural trailer and a natural skirt. Post spawn, summertime, I'm going more shad, more bait fish colors. Pre-spawn, all the way up into fall, going into winter, I'm throwing the darker colors. The only time that is different is when you get conditions. It could be summertime and we get a nasty, nasty front move in, it's pouring down rain. I'm probably gonna put down my shad color buzzbait and pick up a black or a dark colored, brim colored buzzbait with a gold blade or a black blade. So just remember that. All right, we're talking 1/4 ounce buzzbaits. You know, I mentioned the story years ago at a US Open, Lake Mead. Aaron Martins either won it or got second throwing this little bitty baby buzzbait. And I'm like, I had no idea they even made it something like that. But now, of course, after learning about that, I had to have it in my arsenal. And I've seen days and times when that thing just catches them, flat out catches them. You know, to me, it's more of a maybe spawn to early summer buzzbait. I'm not really throwing it when we got a lot of wind, dark skies, storm like that. If it's kind of slick out, maybe a little bit of ripple on the water, that's where these excel, especially if you know you're fishing an area, a pocket, a creek, anywhere where you know other guys are throwing topwater baits like buzz baits or, you know, the plopper style baits, and these fish are getting conditioned. Absolutely, 100%. These style of baits right here are gonna get bites. So let's start off with this right here. This is the new Jackal Darabuzz. You can see how small that little guy is. That's got a chartreuse blade on there. They make several colors. You know, again, this is not something I'm gonna go to Clear Lake or, you know, Lake Fork and throw that. Probably not. But if I'm in a high pressured lake, like say a Gunnersville, where I've seen actually this bait and this little 1/4 ounce buzz bait, that shad color, I've caught them behind people in situations like that. So having the right gear, which we'll get into that, is really important when throwing these because they are light. You gotta throw smaller trailers. I recommend like a baby Menace. I don't have those with me, but the little tiny trailers, because if you put a full-size trailer on there, it's gonna overpower the bait. It's gonna look funny. It's not gonna work right. The way you fish them, right? So make that cast and you're just kind of creeping that thing along. This is a finesse approach. This isn't, you know, your big double buzz, your big clackers, let's go big braid and you know, cover a lot of water. You're throwing at isolated targets, whether it's a patch of grass, a laydown, a stump, usually stuff that you can see, right? Because even though this is white and chartreuse, if you're fishing real muddy conditions, this bait is not making a loud noise, so the drawing power of this isn't as much as another bait. So kind of clear water situations, like I mentioned, the less wind, the better, and you're gonna get a lot of bites throwing these. I promise you, I've done it. The colors, once again, your shad colors. I have a few in the black. That's if, you know, we get one of those abnormal days, it's overcast, there is no wind, and you feel like, you know, you need something subtle. That's where I'd throw the black on black, but usually your shad colors is my go-to for the 1/4 ounce baits. One thing I do with my drags, no matter which reel I'm throwing, because I have different gear ratios and things like that, I lock down the drag so as hard as you possibly can, and then I'll back it off 1 or 2 clicks, just so it's not fully engaged. There's a little give, but you don't want it to where it's a loose drag at all, because then you got problems. So as far as fishing it, right? So this is the Finesse, and you know, you can see the conditions kind of flat today. Midday, the fish are probably not wanting to chase as much as they probably would have in the morning or late in the evening. So I'm fishing the Finesse, I'm making a long cast, and I'm just kind of feathering it. I'm not winding it real fast. I'm just kind of fishing at a slow, medium pace and really allowing that buzzbait to agitate them. That's a big part of it, is when you get around a piece of cover, no matter if you're throwing the big double buzz, a clacker, a single buzz, or a Finesse buzz. When you get around a piece of cover, like right here, I got a little grass clump. I'm gonna throw it as close as I possibly can to it, because a lot of times those fish are sitting outside of it looking at that to ambush something. So then, now that I've targeted that, then I'll kind of fish around the edges. And trust me when I tell you that just because you didn't get bit on your initial cast does not mean that a fish isn't around. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 casts, especially on a particular piece of structure. So what you'll notice here is I'm kind of shaking my rod. All that's doing is making that buzzbait kind of sputter and spurt a little bit, especially when I get around a key piece of structure like what I was just talking about. The other important thing to note with every buzzbait, it's a pretty snagless lure. I'm not saying you're not gonna get some snags, especially with a trailer hook, things of that nature, but you can throw it through cover, over cover, whether it's grass, logs, you know, for example, there's a laydown right here. Throw it right down the side of it. There's some branches out of the water. You can see when that blade hits it, it'll roll and come right off of it. So you don't have to go, oh man, there's a stick right there, I don't want to get snagged. You'd be surprised, the more you fish a buzzbait, how close to structure you can get and get bites, and how kind of weedless it is, and what happens when you hit something. I can't tell you the amount of times when I've hit a rock, or I've hit a stump or a tree, or you know, ripped it out of a clump of grass, and immediately then that's when that fish bites. So don't be afraid to fish it. Like, basically throw it wherever you would kind of throw a frog, other than a surface cheese mat. All right, double-bladed buzzbaits. Man, you know, years and years ago, I learned about these things. Got some homemade ones, some Braybecs, and I was amazed at the difference between throwing singles and clackers, the drawing power of this bait right here. You can see right here, this is a black and purple. Black is really good, white, obviously. Those are my 2 mainstays as far as colors. But let's talk about when I throw it, okay? First of all, early in the year, pre-spawn. This is a big profile bait, especially as a trailer. I would say 90% of the time, I put on a Zoom horny toad. You can put on a big Z-Craw as well. But what this does is adds profile to this bait. So I'm not fishing for small fish. I'm really want a profile that says, man, here's a whole meal, come get me. And the pre-spawn time of year is when, you know, those fish are seeking the shallow cover. They want to get themselves warm, and obviously, you know, a bait like this crawling over their head is going to produce some of those strikes. You might not catch as many as say a Texas rig worm, but the bites you get on this are gonna be far bigger and a lot more fun, I promise you. The fall is a tremendous time of year to throw this. The fish are feeding up. They're utilizing those last little bit of grass patches. They're making their way towards the back end of creeks, sitting on bluff ends, sitting on a laydown, standing timber. The drawing power, once again, of this bait is unparalleled. Like I've seen it time and time and time again. You know, I know that Buckeye Lures makes a really good one. Like I said, this is a homemade one. What you're looking for is you want that gap in that hook, minimum of a 5/0 hook. I have them all the way up to 7/0. So big hook, big trailer, big blades, big bass. That's what we're going after. This is a 3/8 ounce. I have some that are 1/2 ounce. And the castability of these things, it's just, man, to me, I get so excited when I know that it's time to throw that. And then, so let's say, you know, I fish through an area and I know there's fish in there. I had a couple come up and bite this. Well, here we go. We got a baby double buzz, okay? So a little bit lighter, obviously. This here, I believe, is a 5/16, kind of your shaddish color, smaller little blades, but again, it's double. It's not as finessey as your little 1/4 ounce. It still has the drawing power, and the sound that it makes and the profile that it has going through the water isn't as aggressive as this. So you're still able to draw some of those big fish that maybe aren't, you know, totally committed to eating something big like that. If you got people around you throwing big topwater baits and you want a little bit bigger profile than your 1/4 ounce buzz bait, that little baby, promise you, is gonna get you some bites. The Z-Craw Jr. works really good as a trailer on there. It's just, you know, again with the colors. I've talked about it again and again. Darker the skies, the darker the colors. You got a sunlight today, kind of a mix of clouds, I'm going with that kind of color. If it was raining out today or we get a nasty cold front, the air temps drop and the water temps drop and overcast day, that's when I'm going to those black, those darker, more brim colors. There's a lot that goes into it, more so than, you know, let's just tie this on and throw it 3 times if I don't get bit. You got to commit to it, you know, and you're going to have those special days, but having the right equipment and having options to the different styles of buzzbait is what's going to, you know, turn those okay days into really special days. The baby double buzz, I fish it a lot like the original Finesse. So same characteristics. And I fish the baby buzz the same as the big double buzz. So with this, again, this is a heavier bait. So once you throw it out there, you kind of want to keep that rod at even a higher position than that 45 we just talked about with the clacker, just because it's heavy, especially with that bigger trailer on there, it's wanting to pull it down. One of the key attributes of this double buzz that I really like is you can crawl this thing if you have to. When you come in, you know, you're coming by a stump or a tree or, you know, a dock piling, a clump of grass, you can really slow it down, or you can fish it really fast. It's a big bait, but it's bulky enough to stay in the water even if you fish it fast. But what I want to talk about is the main reason I throw a double buzz, to keep it in their strike zone, make a cast. You're coming by a piece of structure right there. When you pop that thing, I can't tell you how many fish I've had. When you make it flare up like that, that's when they get it. So right here in front of me, perfect example. There's a stump I can see. I make the cast. I'm coming by, I pop it up, and if one was there, he should have got it. But yeah, you're just chucking wine. I'm sure I haven't even really talked about it. I talked a little bit about it, but I'm always kind of trying to do something different on a long retrieve. Like very rarely am I not adding some sort of twitch or different vibration or bait change or what have you. But other than that, I mean, it's a fun way to fish. You catch a lot of big fish, and certain times of the year you get a lot of bites. But I will say this, I have a buzzbait, at least one tied on in my rod locker 365 days a year, because you never know when the right situation, even dead of winter, I've caught them on it. So sometimes they're better than others, but it's one of the tools that I always have in the boat. First of all the buzzbaits, I really, truly recommend braided line, minimum of 30, all the way up to 60. That's the range right there. I'll go more into depth, but Finesse Buzzbait, 30 to 50 pound braided line is a must. I don't care if it's gin clear water or mud, does not matter. And here's the reason why. A buzzbait, when it's riding in the water, the line is very seldom ever touching the water. That means the fish can't see above the water, right? They're not going to see the braided line going above the water, so you can get away with throwing the braided line. That being said, that requires you to have the right rod applications, because if you're throwing a broomstick too heavy, like extra heavy rod, with the braided line, you're going to pull it away from them. So for the Finesse Buzzbait, 30 to 50 pound braided line, I really like the new AMZ 50 pound. That's what I've been throwing, and the reason why is because it has a slick coating on there. So when I'm winding it through my guides, I don't hear it, and I don't know if it translates to the fish, but the new product that came out by Sunline is really gained a lot of my confidence. So the rod, okay? What I've found for the Finesse Buzz and my small baby Buzz is a medium to medium heavy 7 to 7'3". You can get away with 7'5" if you want, but 7 to 7'3", medium heavy. The reason being is because these are anywhere from 1/8 to 1/4 ounce. You're throwing small trailers, so you don't want a rod that's too heavy and you can't cast it. So you got to be able to cast the bait well enough, and once a fish gets it, you don't want it too heavy where you're going to pull that braid and snatch it away from them before they get a chance to really get a hold of it. So a medium heavy. This here is a 7'3" multi-purpose designed by Brent Ayler. It's a Tatula Elite rod. I've used it for many applications, but I've just found for finesse buzzing, that's my go-to. Now you notice I have a Daiwa Zillion here, a 7 to 1 gear ratio. I think that's really important in all buzzbait fishing, at least a 7 to 1 gear ratio reel. And here's the reason why. On a normal, steady retrieve, right, that 7 to 1 gear ratio seems to be the right speed. And you can slow it down a little bit, but if you wanted to speed it up, it's a lot harder to wind like a 5 to 2 or a 6 to 3. I mean, you're gonna be getting wore out by the end of the day. So that 7 to 1 gear ratio is about the right retrieve, and then when one eats it and it's coming at you, you got enough line pickup to get it. The size, it's a 100 size. It's just comfortable for me. The whole purpose, the reason I throw the Zillion on this setup is because it's more finessey. So just a good all-around 7 to 1 gear ratio reel. Holds a lot of line, good line capacity because you're making long casts like we talked about when we were fishing. And the drag setting I mentioned, what I do is I lock it all the way down, even with the finesse. Okay, I lock it as tight as you can go, and then I'll back it off. 1, 2, 3, right in that range. That way, on the initial hook set, it's not like popping that braid and not breaking it off. What I normally have done for years and years and years is the Tatula 7'4" frog rod. I've been throwing this for all my other buzzbait applications until I just found another brand new rod that I'll explain here in a second. 7'4", single buzz, and especially the Clacker Buzz. This is my favorite rod right here. I recommend, at least a 7-footer to 7'5" range on that heavier side of action. You can get away with a medium heavy, but I recommend a heavy. And the reason why, when you're buzzbait fishing, majority of the times you're fishing around cover. You're fishing on lay down logs. You're fishing around grass, lily pads, any sort of heavy structure. And you got to have a rod powerful enough to get those fish out of it. If you had a glass rod, the fish might win the battle more often than not. So again, with the braided line, this here is the AMZ, the brand new 60 pound, okay? I recommend when you're going clacker, single buzz, basically anything heavier than a 3/8 ounce and up, you want to go a minimum of 50 pound braid. I know a friend of mine goes all the way up to 80, but I recommend that 50 to 60 is right there, perfect. Good castability, and try to find a line that, you know, like I mentioned, that AMZ has a coating on it. So some of the braids are non-coated. The way they're woven, you can really hear it going through your guides. To me, it's kind of a turnoff. I've used it for years and years and years. And now with the advancements in technology and line and all the other applications, we have that availability to have quiet braid. The reel, this here is a 7-3-to-1. It's like I mentioned with the Finesse. That 7 gear ratio is about the right speed you need to retrieve it. I like this reel because it's got a little bit bigger paddles because I'm throwing bigger baits, what I feel are non-finesse applications. So I want a reel that I feel like I can wrench on them with. Okay, great drag system in here. So 7-3 is perfect for that. This here is the Tatula SVTW version 1. And again, I like it just because of the big paddles, the castability. A lot of times, you know, in buzzbait fishing, you're fishing in the fall, early in the spring, you get a lot of wind. Casting in the wind, it helps cut that back, cut that down. Another quick tip I could tell you, when you're throwing these buzzbaits, when I spool up all this braided line, I use like a line conditioner, okay? And what that does is it helps the castability of your line. It's really simple to use. You spray it on there and it helps increase the life of your braid and also the castability. Right here, this Reel Magic, it saves you a lot of backlash and it turns out really silk and smooth, so that's nice. I used to throw the double buzz on this as well. Sometimes I'd even go to a 7'6" heavy action rod if I was at, you know, the California Delta fishing for 10 pounders or something. But this new rod, I've tried it out. Now I've had it for a couple weeks, this DXB 7'4" frog rod. So what I like about this rod is the tip is just a hair lighter, so not as stout as a normal heavy action rod, if that makes any sense to you. So it allows that fish, when I make a long cast, I'm winding it, even with this 60-pound braid, it allows that fish to get it. And the tip loads up and then you got them. So you're not pulling it away from them. So, you know, again, with a double buzz, anywhere from a 7 to 7'6" rod even. This is a big, heavy bait. You want at least a medium heavy, if not a heavy action rod. And the same line, 60 pound all the way up to 80 pound is what I recommend. Or actually 50 pound if you want, but I recommend 60 to 80. At least a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. This is a 7.3, same as my Clacker reel, 7.3 Tatula SVTW. And again, with the bigger paddles, it's just a complete system if you really think about it. I'm not gonna put my Finesse reel on here with 30-pound braid and throw that big of a bait. I'm not, and vice versa. So having the right system, the right rod, the right reel, the right line, the right bait at the right time, you're gonna catch a lot more fish. All right, guys, so hope you enjoyed this segment. Hope you learned something. If you have any questions, you know, leave a comment below or even hit me up on direct messaging. You know, it was a lot of fun going through the buzzbaits. I've had a lot of experience with this, and hopefully you guys learned something. And make sure and check out other videos that Tackle Warehouse does in their learning center. And for more information, tacklewarehouse.com. All the gear is available. Check them out.